Hello and welcome to Pomona College. My name is David Oxtoby, president of the college, and it is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker, Claudia Rankine. Claudia Rankine's work crosses boundaries, and her life has crossed many borders. Born in Jamaica, she was raised in Kingston and New York City, and was educated at Williams College and Columbia University. Claudia joined us here at Pomona College in 2006 and teaches creative writing and poetry as the Henry G. Lee Professor of English. Her work is extensive. She is both a poet and a playwright. In 2013, she was appointed Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets, a post previously held by W.H. Auden, Elizabeth Bishop, and Adrienne Rich. Citizen and American Lyric, an incisive blend of poetry, essays, and images, has garnered acclaim from every corner, won numerous prizes, and been nominated for too many awards to name, including making the short list for the National Book Award. Citizen won this year's National Book Critics Circle Award for poetry and was the first work ever to be nominated in two categories, both poetry and criticism. On Saturday night, Citizen won the Los Angeles Times Book Prize in Poetry. Last fall, at Convocation, here in this same space, I spoke on poetry, how poetry is a thread that can tie together our experiences over a lifetime, and how at its base is a way of trying to make sense of the world. In Citizen, the threads are the experiences of Black Americans, and Claudia brilliantly and fearlessly weaves for us meditations that help us better understand the racism, injustice, and trauma that this country perpetrates obviously and insidiously on an everyday basis. These are poems that both disturb and draw us further in. The New Yorker called Citizen an especially vital book for this moment in time. For me personally, what Claudia has accomplished is nothing short of revelatory, giving me a glimpse into experiences and realities that are very different from my own and so important for me to see and grapple with. Claudia has become one of the most extraordinary voices of this generation, rightly praised for her consummate talent and courageous spirit. Please join me in welcoming Claudia Rankine.
Good afternoon. It's such a beautiful day out that I thank you for coming inside. I'd like to thank the President's office for arranging this event. It's very different to be at home doing this. I'm going to read, obviously, from Citizen. It's a book that in many ways is a community document. I went to friends, I asked them to share their experiences, and then I wrote them down, and then I wrote them down, and then I wrote them down. So I'll start with a poem. Actually, I walk sometimes with a friend of mine called Jen, and I asked Jen to tell me a moment when she knew that she was doing something because she was white. And she told me a few things, but then she said, you know, actually, there's something I do, and I know I do it as a white person, but I don't do it here so much. I do it on the East Coast, and it has to do with going on public transportation, and you see that seat next to a black person, usually a black male, and you sit in it. You sit in it because no one else will sit in it. And I said, well, Jen, you know, I do that too. And apparently I'm not a white woman, not yet. And so we had a really interesting discussion about the ways in which the body, we use our own bodies to address failures in our culture. We actually put our body there. And so this is the piece that came out of that. On the train, the woman standing makes you understand there are no seats available. And in fact, there is one. Is the woman getting off at the next stop? No. She would rather stand all the way to Union Station. The space next to the man is the pause in a conversation you are suddenly rushing to fill. You step quickly over the woman's fear, a fear she shares. You let her have it. The man doesn't acknowledge you as you sit down because the man knows more about the unoccupied seat than you do. For him, you imagine it is more like breath than wonder. He has had to think about it so much, you wouldn't call it thought. When another passenger leaves his seat and the standing woman sits, you glance over at the man. He's gazing out the window into what looks like darkness. You sit next to the man on the train, bus, in the plane, waiting room, anywhere he could be forsaken. You put your body there in proximity to, adjacent to, alongside. You don't speak unless you are spoken to, and your body speaks to the space you fill, and you keep trying to fill it, except the space belongs to the body of the man next to you, not to you. Where he goes, the space follows him. If the man left his seat before Union Station, you would simply be a person in a seat on the train. You would cease to struggle against the unoccupied seat. When, where, why, the space won't lose its meaning. You imagine if the man spoke to you, he would say, "It's okay, I'm okay. You don't need to sit here." You don't need to sit, and you sit and look past him into the darkness. The train is moving through a tunnel. All the while, the darkness allows you to look at him. Does he feel you looking at him? You suspect so. What does suspicion mean? What does suspicion do? The soft gray green of your cotton coat touches the sleeve of him. You are shoulder to shoulder, though standing. You could feel shadowed. You sit to repair whom? Who? You erase that thought. And it might be too late for that. It might forever be too late or too early. The train moves too fast for your eyes to adjust to anything beyond the man, the window, the tiled tunnel, its slick darkness. Occasionally, a white light flickers by like a displaced sound. From across the aisle, tracks, harbor, world, a woman asks a man in the rows ahead if he would mind switching seats. She wishes to sit with her daughter or son. You hear, but you don't hear. You can't see. It's then the man next to you turns to you, and as if from inside your own head, you agree that if anyone asks you to move, you'll tell them, "We are traveling as a family." That actually happened to me. I have a friend here. He's a lawyer, grew up in Berkeley Hills. In fact, he grew up across the street from Paul Newman. So he remembers when Newman came to his house and rang the doorbell and asked him to taste some salad dressing. So he was there at the very beginning. So I asked him to tell me stories of every time he was pulled over by the police. And in exchange, I would make him dinner. So he came to my house with his wife, and this person, if you knew him, is incredibly mild-mannered, but as he began to tell the stories, he became more and more agitated. I knew whatever was in front of me was happening. Then the police vehicle came to a screeching halt in front of me, like they were setting up a blockade. Everywhere were flashes, a siren sounding, and a stretched out roar. Get on the ground now. Then I just knew. And you are not the guy, and still you fit the description, because there is only one guy who is always the guy fitting the description. I left my client's house knowing I would be pulled over. I just knew. I opened my briefcase on the passenger seat just so they could see. Yes, officer, rolled around on my tongue, which grew out of a bell that could never ring, because its emergency was a tolling I was meant to swallow. In a landscape drawn from an ocean bed, you can't drive yourself sane. So angry, you are crying. You can't drive yourself sane. This motion wears a guy out. Our motion is wearing you out. Still, you are not the guy. Then flashes a siren, a stretched out roar, and you're not the guy, and still you fit the description, because there is only one guy who is always the guy fitting the description. Get on the ground. Get on the ground now. I must have been speeding. No, you weren't speeding. I wasn't speeding. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why am I pulled over? Why are you pulling me over? Put your hands where they can be seen. Put your hands up. Then you're stretched out on the hood, then cuffed. Get on the ground now. I was pulled out of my vehicle a block from my door, handcuffed and pushed into the police vehicle's back seat, the officer's knees pressing into my collarbone, the officer's warm breath vacating a face creased into the smile of its own private joke. Each time it begins in the same way, it doesn't begin the same way. Each time it begins, it's the same. Go ahead and hit me, motherfucker, fled my lips. And the officer did not need to hit me. The officer did not need anything from me except the look on my face on the drive across town. You can't drive yourself sane. You're not insane. Our motion is wearing you out. You're not the guy. This is what it looks like. You know this is wrong. This is not what it looks like. You need to be quiet. This is wrong. You need to close your mouth now. This is what it looks like. Why are you talking if you haven't done anything wrong? And you're not the guy, and still you fit the description, because there is only one guy who's always the guy fitting the description. In a landscape drawn from an ocean bed, you can't drive yourself sane. So angry, you can't drive yourself sane. The charge the officer decided on was exhibition of speed. I was told, after the fingerprinting, to stand naked. I stood naked. It was only then I was instructed to dress, to leave, to walk all those miles back home. And still you're not the guy, and still you fit the description, because there is only one guy who's always the guy fitting the description. I asked him why he walked home. Why not call somebody? And he said he was just that angry. He needed to walk it off. Walk it off. This next piece is in memory of James Craig Anderson. I don't know If you remember, he was the guy that was run over by the pickup truck. A group of white teenagers decided that they would go out, and the first black person they ran into, male, they would beat him up. So they did. They went out. He was stepping out of a hotel, and this was in 2011, and they beat him up. And then one of them decided to run him over with the pickup truck. So the video from the hotel shows him sort of crawling along the curb, and then the pickup truck ran him over and backed up. And then the guy goes to McDonald's, and they have him saying to his friends, "I ran that nigger over." He was prosecuted, but none of the others were held accountable until recently. Eric Holder went back and reopened the case and prosecuted the women that were in the car, the other driver. In the next frame, the pickup truck is in motion. Its motion activates its darkness. The pickup truck is a condition of darkness in motion. It makes a dark subject. You mean a black subject? No, a black object. Then the pickup is beating the black object to the ground, and the tire marks, the crushed organs, then the audio, "I ran that nigger over," is itself a record-breaking hot June day in the 21st century. The pickup returns us to live cruelty, like sunrise, red streaks falling from dawn to asphalt. Then again, this pickup is not about beauty. It's a pure product. The announcer patronizes the pickup truck. No hoodlums, just teens. No gang, just a teen with straggly blonde hair, a slight blonde man. The pickup is human in this predictable way. Do you recognize yourself, Deadman? In the circulating photo, you are looking down. Were you dreaming of this day all the days of your youth? In the daydream, did the pickup take you home? Was it a pickup fueling the road to "I ran that nigger over"? Baldwin says skin color cannot be more important than the human being. And was the pickup constructing or exploding whiteness out of you? You are so sorry. You are angry, an explosive anger, an effective one. I ran that nigger over. James Craig Anderson is dead. The pickup truck is a figure of speech. It is as the crown standing in for the kingdom. Who told you it was a crown? Did we tell you the pickup was as good as home? You are so young, Deadman. You were so young. James Craig Anderson is dead. What ails you, Deadman? What up? What's up? Is James Craig Anderson is dead. So sorry, so angry, an imploding anger. It must let you go. It let you go. It's one of those things you really want to, I would love to go and ask him what he thought he was achieving. The other question that I asked friends was, could you tell me a moment when you, in your course of your day, when you're among colleagues or a friend, or you're doing something quite quotidian, like going to the store to buy a coffee, and suddenly race/racism steps in and reroutes emotionally that moment. So I'll read a few of those. And I will add that I made nothing up, just in case you think I'm that good a writer. You and your partner go to see the film The House We Live In. You ask a friend to pick up your child from school. On your way home, your phone rings. Your neighbor tells you he is standing at his window watching a menacing black guy casing both your homes. The guy is walking back and forth, talking to himself, and seems disturbed. You tell your neighbor that your friend, whom he has met, is babysitting. He says, "No, it's not him. He's met your friend, and this isn't that nice young man. Anyway, he wants you to know he's called the police." Your partner calls your friend and asks him if there's a guy walking back and forth in front of your house. Your friend says that if anyone were outside, he would see him because he is standing outside. You hear the sirens through the speakerphone. Your friend is speaking to your neighbor when you arrive home. The 4 police cars are gone. Your neighbor has apologized to your friend and is now apologizing to you. Feeling somewhat responsible for the actions of your neighbor, you clumsily tell your friend that the next time he wants to talk on the phone, he should just go in the backyard. Ooh, I know. He looks at you a long minute before saying he can speak on the phone wherever he wants. Yes, of course, you say. Yes, of course. So that, I have to take credit for being the idiot in that one. I mean, the kind of moment when, what's ironic about this piece is that I saw it coming. I thought, my neighbor will think this black man coming in and out of our home is a criminal, so I'm going to invite him over for dinner. And so I had a dinner party, and I introduced him. And it still happened. The moment that I was protecting him again still occurred. So then when this happened, I said to him, you know, maybe you should just go in the backyard to use the phone. And he looked at me, and that was one of those moments when, you know, perhaps you've had this moment, when heat starts in your knees and starts rising up your body, and you're looking and you realize you've made a big mistake. But it was that, it's the way, one of the ways that racism, I think, gets us all as a construction, because I'm more worried about the police and what could happen in that interaction in terms of the vulnerability of his body in that space than I was about his freedom overall. And that was the problem. I mean, it's one of those things you can't, you know, you can't protect against something if it really is going to curtail your own freedom. So it was a good lesson for me. You're in the dark, in the car, watching the black tarred street being swallowed by speed. He tells you his dean is making him hire a person of color when there are so many great writers out there. You think, maybe this is an experiment. and you're being tested or retroactively insulted, or you have done something that communicates this is an okay conversation to be having. Why do you feel comfortable saying this to me? You wish the light would turn red or a police siren would go off so you could slam on the brakes, slam into the car in front of you, fly forward so quickly both your faces would suddenly be exposed to the wind. As usual, you drive straight through the moment with the expected backing off of what was previously said. It is not only that confrontation is headache-producing, it is also that you have a destination that doesn't include acting like this moment isn't inhabitable, hasn't happened before, and the before isn't part of the now as the night darkens and the time shortens between where we are and where we are going. One of the funny things that has happened to me recently is a long time ago, I got a job at Barnard College, and a poet in New York who was a friend of mine went to lunch with me. And she said, you know, that would have been my job if they didn't need to hire a black person. And I was like, well, okay. And, but it's my job, you know. Black person or no. But what was funny, this was, 20-something years ago, but I was at dinner about 2 weeks ago at I will leave the college unnamed, and this woman was sitting next to me. And somebody said, oh, that piece you read about the dean and the color of person. And then she turned to me and she said, oh my God, I'm sure I've done something like that in the past. To me, in fact. So it's kind of good that you remembered. When the stranger asks, why do you care? You just stand there staring at him. He has just referred to the boisterous teenagers in Starbucks as niggers. Hey, I'm standing right here, you responded, not necessarily expecting him to turn to you. He is holding the lidded paper cup in one hand and a small paper bag in the other. They're just being kids. Come on, no need to get all KKK on them, you say. Now there you go, he responds. The people around you have turned away from their screens. The teenagers are on pause. There I go, you ask? Feeling irritation begin to rain down. Yes, and something about hearing yourself, repeating this stranger's accusation in a voice usually reserved for your partner, makes you smile. The only piece that was told to me that made me feel surprised, I mean, most of the stories, I had my own version of the story. And so you're like, oh, yeah, again. But then I was told this story, and literally out of my mouth came the words, no way. And she said, yeah, way. And this, not that it matters, but I'll tell you that this person is a professor in Northern California, and I tell you that because then you can imagine the sort of Berkeley, not that she's at Berkeley, landscape, the hills, the Berkeley Hills. The new therapist specializes in trauma counseling. You have only ever spoken on the phone. Her house has a side gate that leads to a back entrance she uses for patients. You walk down a path bordered on both sides with deer grass and rosemary to the gate, which turns out to be locked. At the front door, the bell is a small round disc that you press firmly. Then when the door finally opens, the woman standing there yells at the top of her lungs, "Get away from my house! What are you doing in my yard?" It's as if a wounded Doberman Pinscher or a German Shepherd has gained access to speech. And though you back up a few steps, you manage to tell her you have an appointment. You have an appointment, she spits back. Then she pauses. Everything pauses. "Oh," she says, followed by, "Oh yes, that's right, I am sorry, I am so, so sorry." And I asked my friend, "So then what happened?" She went to the appointment. And then what happened? She said she went home and she wept. She just broke down. And then she wrote her a letter saying that she wasn't going to the next appointment. I'm like, you made another appointment? But she made another appointment. So she said she was not going to the next appointment. And that's how it goes. I mean, in some ways I was incredulous, but on the other hand, I do understand that thing where you do the next thing. Something happens, and we're on our way to some place, so you do the next thing. I'll read two more, and then I'll show you some of the images in the book. There's an essay in the book, which has caused confusion as to genre, apparently. And it's an essay about Serena Williams. I like thinking about sports in terms of race, partly because much of what happens in terms of microaggressions happens so quickly that you're often doubting yourself. You know, did I hear, did what? And by the time it sort of sinks into your body, then you seem crazy if you run after that person and say, "What did you say?" You know, and they'll be like, "What is wrong with you?" So in sports, you get the replay. So something happens and they replay it. So then you can see for sure. And then you can go back on YouTube and replay it and replay it and replay it. So I wrote an essay about Serena Williams' tennis career. And I'll read you a few paragraphs from that. Serena and her big sister Venus Williams brought to mind Zora Neale Hurston's "I feel most colored when I'm thrown against a sharp white background." This appropriated line, stenciled on canvas by Glenn Ligon, who used plastic letter stencils, smudging oil sticks and graphite to transform the words into abstractions, seemed to be ad copy for some aspect of life for all Black people. Hurston's statement has been played out on the big screen by Venus and Serena. They win sometimes, they lose sometimes. They've been injured, they've been happy, they've been sad. Ignored, booed mightily, see Indian Wells, which both sisters have boycotted since 2001, and Serena just broke that boycott. They've been cheered, and through it all, and evident to all, were those people who were enraged that they were there at all. Graphite against a sharp white background. For years, you attribute to Serena Williams a kind of resilience appropriate only for those who exist in celluloid. Neither her father, nor her mother, nor her sister, nor Jehovah her God, nor Nike Camp could shield her ultimately from people who felt her Black body didn't belong on their court, in their world. From the start, many made it clear Serena would have done better struggling to survive in the two-dimensionality of a Millet painting rather than on their tennis court. Better to put all that strength to work in their fantasy of her working the land rather than be caught up in the turbulence of our ancient dramas, like a ship fighting a storm in a Turner seascape. And I think I will end the reading portion of the evening with this piece. And then I will show the images. My brothers are notorious. They have not been to prison. They have been imprisoned. The prison is not a place you enter. It is no place. My brothers are notorious. They do regular things like wait. On my birthday, they say my name. They will never forget that we are named. What is that memory? The days of our childhood together were steep steps into a collapsing mind. It looked like we rescued ourselves, were rescued. Then there are these days each day of our adult lives. They will never forget our way through, these brothers, each brother, my brother, my dearest brothers, dear heart. Your hearts are broken. This is not a secret, though there are secrets, and as yet I do not understand how my own sorrow has turned into my brothers' hearts. The hearts of my brothers are broken. If I knew another way to be, I would call up a brother. I would hear myself saying, my brother, my dearest brothers, dear heart. On the tip of a tongue, one note following another is another path, another dawn, where the pink sky is the bloodshot of struck, of sleepless, of sorry, of senseless. Shush. Those years of and before me and my brothers, the years of passage, plantation, migration, of Jim Crow segregation, of poverty, inner cities, profiling, of 1 in 3, 2 jobs, boy, hey boy, each a felony, accumulate into the hours inside our lives where we are all caught hanging. The rope inside us, the tree inside us, its roots our limbs, a throat sliced through. And when we open our mouth to speak, blossoms, oh blossoms, no place coming out. Brother, dear brother, that kind of blue. The sky is the silence of brothers all the day leading up to my call. If I called, I'd say goodbye before I broke the goodbye. I say goodbye before anyone can hang up. Don't hang up. My brother hangs up, though he's there. I keep talking, the talk keeps him there. The sky is blue, kind of blue. The day is hot. Is it cold? Are you cold? It does get cool. Is it cool? Are you cool? My brother is completed by sky. The sky is his silence. Eventually he says, it is raining down, it was raining, it stopped raining, it is raining down. He won't hang up. He's there, but he's hung up, though he's there. Goodbye, I say. I break the goodbye. I say goodbye before anyone can hang up. Don't hang up. Wait with me, though the waiting might be the call of goodbyes. Thank you. In the book, that piece I just read is followed by this image. It's the image of the lynching of Tommen and Abram Smith. And it's funny, I just realized that this was in Indiana, so Indiana has been getting ready for a long time, getting itself positioned. This was the hardest image to get for the book, the most difficult, partly because the Hulton archives were nervous that I would use it in a way to promote what is inside the image. And so they refused the request. But then, because my husband doesn't take no for an answer, we went back in and he asked them. And we sent them the text, and then they said yes. But the funny thing is, because this had gone on, this no, I was very nervous about asking them whether or not we could take out the bodies. But when we said, can we delete the bodies, they were like, yeah, sure, not a problem. Because the scandal was the source of the anxiety. But the idea that the faces would be the thing that concerned us, they didn't care about that. And in a sense, it's sort of interesting, the idea that those white folks are complicit, even if they themselves are not doing it, in their watching and in their appetite for letting these kinds of things happen as they stand by. You know, that was what I wanted to point to. But they were okay with that. They're like, point to that if you want. We don't care. So that was easy enough. But I'm going to go back to the original image. This is David Hammons. He's a Los Angeles artist originally. Now he's in New York. He's a conceptual artist. Some of you might know his work. He, at one point, sold snowballs at the side of the road, so you could have some melting whiteness in your hands. He did he did this image in 1995. A lot of people assume it was done in response to Trayvon Martin. It was done 2 years after the beating of Rodney King. That's David Hammons. There's an extractus piece in the book that refers to this piece. It's concerto in black and blue. And this piece makes it look like when you walk into the space, it's blue, but when you walk into the space, actually, it's completely dark. And I was in New York a long time ago, and I saw David Hammons, so I entered the gallery. And it was a space perhaps this size, but completely dark. And they hand you a flashlight, a blue flashlight. And you walk around the space, but you have no idea if anybody else is there. And the most disconcerting feeling is not having a sense of the dimensions in terms of where the walls are. So in the book, I used it to talk about lack, this sensation of moving towards something when no one else is seeking you. This street, if you want to buy a house on it, is available to you in Flowery Branch, Georgia. So if you would like to live on Jim Crow Road, you have that option. I just want you to know that. This piece, the piece on the far right was the piece I wish to use because I was thinking, do you all remember Howard Cosell when he was moderating, commentating a basketball game, and he said, look at that monkey run, talking about one of the basketball players. And so I thought it might be interesting to choose my own animal. And so the deer. And I had seen this in a gallery a long time ago, so I contacted the artist, Kate Clark, and I said, Kate, can I use that in the book? And she said, well, sure, but why don't you commission a piece? And I'll make you a piece specifically for the book. And the process was kind of exciting. I got to pick out the hide, and then she cast a face. But when she sent it to me, I thought, no, I want that one. Because if you look at the face, it was as if the affect, because on a certain level the book is about affect, it's about feeling, and the affect had been removed. And I said, well, what about the expression on the other one? And she said, well, I wanted to make something beautiful because there was so much pain in your book. And I'm like, no, we like the pain. We're going to stay with the pain. This is Jason Massoud, a.k.a. N.E.C. Youngman. He does a series on called Art Thoughts, and the two that I reference in the book are called How to Be a Successful Artist, Be White, How to Be a Successful Black Artist, Be Angry. So those are, I'll show two more of these. This artist, Nick Cave, I find his work incredibly interesting, partly because I didn't initially understand the impulse behind it. He makes what are called sound suits, and it covers you from head to foot. And I thought, oh, they're beautiful, obviously, but I wondered what was the impetus behind it, and so I read everything about him, and finally I found an interview in which he said that after the beating of Rodney King, he thought, well, if the problem is just the color of my skin, well, maybe I should just cover it up. So he made these sound suits, and that's how he began making them. And you can actually put them on when you go to a show, sometimes. Sometimes you cannot. That's Caroline Wozniacki. She's a Danish tennis player. She did this, I think not fully cognizant of the idea that she was stepping into the Venus Hottentot image, and so she was mocking Serena Williams, or mimicking, I shouldn't say mocking, mimicking Serena Williams at an exhibition match, and people got upset. And the question was, is she racist? Serena Williams came to her defense and said it didn't bother her, but if other people were bothered, then maybe Caroline should rethink what she had done. And this is the last image I'll show you. This is the Rutgers Basketball team, and you might remember Don Imus, those nappy-headed hoes. So this was taken at the apology. And I love the image of their faces, this idea of these women throwing shade through their expressions. But one of the things that fascinated me about this image was why that R was there. I mean, it signifies Rutgers, but so I tracked down the original image, and behind the R is a blonde woman. So I found it amusing that they put it in front of her as if to say, this is not about you. But you know, she could have been in solidarity, and in fact, it was about her, in a sense. Well, thank you so much.